I'm here to tell you a tale. This is a true underdog story about a guy who couldn't ride a bike in China. He tried his best, but just wasn't in the cards. Once upon a time, when I first moved to China, I was living in Guangdong, in the southern province, Cantonese region. And it was my first job. I was just so pumped to be in China. Everything was changing so fast. My life was like a roller coaster. It was just unbelievable how much was changing. And I decided at that time, on a whim, to buy a motorcycle. It would be my first bike that I ever owned. Now, some of you might say, why would you choose China as the place to learn how to ride a bike? Well, I'll tell you what. It wasn't the best idea, because riding in China is pretty ridiculous, as you can see maybe from some of my videos. And you might not believe this, but it's actually much crazier down where I was living, because there's just a lot more cars. But anyway, I bought this shiny, brand new bike right from the factory. It was a 125cc. It was a carbon copy of the Wuyang Honda, which is a bare bones bike. It's a red bike. They call them red bikes in China. The cheapest bike you can buy. A little 125cc. They use them for motorcycle taxis, all kinds of utilitarian purposes. Farmers use them. It's like the people's vehicle. Anyway, the cheapest one you can get is like it's like 4,000 yuan. So maybe like, I don't know, let's say 600 bucks. Brand new for a new vehicle that can go 60 miles an hour. Pretty good deal, right? I got a copy of that. A Jialing, okay? That's a Chinese brand of that Honda cheap bike. Those are about 3,000. But not only did I get a copy of that Honda, I got a copy of the copy. It was called a Jialong. So first you have the Honda, then you have the Jialing, and then you have the Jialong. I had the Jialong. That was a little bit under 2,000 yuan new. So it was maybe like $250, $300, $250 new. Anyway, I get this brand new bike. It's a piece of crap, but I love it. I love it so much. And I buy it because I know that you don't need a motorcycle license in China. I know how difficult it is to get one. And they also don't give them to foreigners, especially down in Guangdong, where they're trying to get rid of motorcycles in some of the bigger cities. So at that time, it was just out of the question. I didn't need. Nobody has a motorcycle license anyway. Not even Chinese people. They have driver's licenses, some of them, but motorcycle licenses are ridiculous. You don't need that. So anyway, my boss at my school that I was working at in Huizhou, she, a foreign woman from the UK, she decided that she hated the idea that I had a motorcycle. Me and my friend bought them together, actually. She hated the idea that we bought bikes together, and she thought it was a liability, and she started power tripping, and she goes, no way. She takes us out after the meeting. She goes, no, you can't have motorcycles. It's too dangerous, and you don't have a license, knowing that we couldn't get them. So she said, I'll tell you what, you'll be legal if you can get a license. If you can get a license, I'll let you ride. But she knew that it was impossible for us, because they weren't even giving motorcycle licenses out in Huizhou, unless you lived in some like poor, impoverished region. And it was impossible for a foreigner to get it. So we're really bummed. We're, basically trying to fight off the tears, because we really want to ride, and we had a good couple weeks of riding, just learning and experiencing something that most foreigners just don't see in China, which is outside of where they live. You can take a bus, but there's nothing like riding a bike. I mean, that wind, experiencing the smells and tastes and like the cultures that you pass through. It's just an amazing experience, So we decided if we weren't allowed to ride bikes without a license, we were gonna get a license. Everyone told us, you're ridiculous, it's impossible, what's wrong with you guys? Nope. We went down to the Department of Motor Vehicles. They were like, no. We kept asking. No, it's impossible. What are you guys doing? Blah, blah, blah. Eventually, we annoy enough people to where they're like, whatever, just let them take the test. It's not like they're gonna pass. It doesn't matter, whatever. Just forget about it. So they call in to like some government dudes, and they decide to allow us to take the test.
Right, naturally.
Unfortunately, the test at the time was in Chinese, but there was supposed to be an English version available for foreigners living in China. Unfortunately, the English was completely wrong. All of the questions were completely wrong. I believe one of the questions said like, what will happen if you encounter a side wind? And what the correct answer was, experience moral deviation. none of the English was comprehensible at all. And at that time, I didn't know enough Chinese to even remotely come close to passing the test. So you have to score a 90% on this test, and there's a total of 1,000 questions that they pick 100 from randomly. So we tried this crap test, and we ended up having to like spend 2 months memorizing wrong English answers to be able to take it. So we go back over and over again. They're like, no, this is ridiculous. We go back like 12 times to take the test. And at the end of it, eventually, we don't know what happened, but we went from like getting 40% to a 93, and both of our screens showed 93. And we were so pumped, and all that hard work we had memorizing all of those answers just really paid off, and we were just so pumped we both let out a little yelp when we finished the test. And the people, the government officials inside the DMV they were on our side at that point. They were just so pumped, they were so happy that we got our license. But then the next screen on the license examination said, on the computer, it said, oh, now welcome to take part 2. And we're like, what is part 2? Oh my gosh. So we find out there's a driving exam, which is a month later. So now we're like 3-4 months into this without driving our bikes, trying to do this legally. And I pass it no problem. There's like a figure 8 thing, and there's like a little mini city that you have to drive through without hitting stuff. And my friend can't do it. He's like 6'8". He just can't do it. And he's never driven a car, he's never ridden a bike. So anyway, he actually borrows this guy's scooter because it doesn't have gears, so it's a little easier to do, and ends up crashing it into a tree at the license test. So he gets up, scrapes, the guy's like, he wasn't that angry. He was like, dude, what are you doing? And it got so bad that like all the Chinese guys passed the test there. And it got so bad that like the officials were like turning away when he was going, just to make sure that he was, they weren't seeing his mistakes. But at the end, like, they just couldn't pass him. And he basically said, just go on without me, man. Just go on without me. Just go, bro. And I was like, no, man, we're in this together. We're in this together. And so I ended up getting my license. Well, I got approved for my license there that day. But it felt kind of empty because I couldn't ride with my best friend, So anyway, we're walking back, and he's like, I'll come back and do this another time, maybe a couple months later when I have more practice and stuff. And I'm like, well, let's go see what we can do. So we go in to the office, and we go, is there anything we can do? My friend didn't pass. And he's like, I know, I heard all about it. It's terrible. And I was like, dude, you know how long we've been here? And I was like, is there anything we can do? And he goes, yeah, just pay me 100 kwai. So the whole time, all we had to do was pay 100 yuan, about $16. That's the only thing we had to do the entire time. Unfortunately, we didn't know about bribery in China. We didn't know how things worked. And now we know. So that was a story about how I learned that bribery gets you everything. But the story's not over. We didn't get our licenses that day. We just got approved. We get a call into my office phone at work. And they go, no, we tried to send it away to the government, their application, and they know that we could do it on a local level because you guys talked to us, but the national government's not going to allow this. We called so many people, and we live in China, it's a people's government. You can go file your complaint with the government and possibly not die and rot in prison. And we actually work our way up through officials until we get to Beijing. We get through to Beijing, who we say we did everything correctly, we passed all the tests, and technically there's a little bit of a loophole, and we ended up getting approved on a national level. Got our licenses sent to us, and to this day, there's been no one in Huizhou, no foreigners in Huizhou that have ever even remotely tried to get a motorcycle license, because you don't need one. But we're so proud. So our boss obviously knew that we weren't going to get them. So we pull up on our bikes, revving our engines like crazy. And we walk into work, and she goes, what are you guys doing? I told you guys you couldn't ride those bikes unless you get a license. And we went, shing! We showed the license. She goes, these must be fake. These must be fake. I go, you want to call? You want to call the DMV down there? Department of Motor Vehicles. They'd be obliged to tell you that these are legit. We passed all the tests, and we did it. And she hated my guts from then on.